I'm Kirti Dhanai, a platform engineer on the DevX team at Wayfair. We manage all things platform. So our job is basically to reduce the cognitive load on every engineer that's shipping code to production. So from the moment that it hits that your PR gets opened and it hits the feature toggle, and then till the point where your feature toggle or the feature is on 100% rollout. We own the platform that sort of makes that journey faster, more safer, reliable, and repeatable as well. I'm genuinely excited to be back here. Last year, I think I stood somewhere very similar to this, and we talked about how Wayfair went from flag chaos to FeatureOps discipline. And if you were there, thank you. And if you were not there, then I will catch you up very fast on this. But this year, the story is going to have a sequel and honestly, this year's story is going to be better because we got AI in the picture and everything got more interesting. But before that, a quick bit about me before we dive in. I am Kirti. I am a super outdoorsy human. I love surfing. And I guess some of the recent or the latest developments in my armory is that I recently got into free diving, which, if you haven't tried already, it's essentially voluntarily holding your breath inside ocean and then just hoping for the best. And at Wayfair, I'm a platform engineer, a site reliability engineer, managing all things platform. And we do that at a scale that still occasionally makes me do a double take. Turns out ocean and production are very similar and they have a lot in common, and both of them will humble you really fast and really quickly. Which is why exactly I wanted to talk about how we stopped letting production humble us and we started letting AI help us ship code faster than ever and without the 2 a.m. incident wake up calls. um, Here's what we're going to be doing today. I will be talking about Wayfair first so that you have some idea and context about who we are. Then we'll start with the problem, the AI paradox that I think every engineering team is quietly wrestling with right now. And then I'll show you a Wayfair scale so you understand the stakes. And then we get into the really fun bit, the MCP origin story, what it does, what it looks like for us from day to day, and then some honest lessons and things that we've learned on the journey. Um, but before that, about us, now hopefully we don't need an introduction, but here's Wayfair for you. Wayfair is an e-commerce platform exclusively focused on the home. We are happy to be serving over 22 million active and growing customers and work with more than 2,000 suppliers globally. We bring together an amazing supplier experience to the customer on everything that is home related. Now, from a brand perspective, Wayfair goes to the market through a portfolio of brands, each targeting a distinct segment of the home category. So, at the mass market level, we have Wayfair, which is our flagship, and then moving up on to mid to premium segment, we have modern and classic aesthetics, respectively. And then at the luxury level, we have Perigold that serves a high-end design audience. And this is how we deliver value to everyone according to the customer's preferences wherever they want to meet us. Okay, great. So, Unleash at Wayfair. Let me take you into the massive space that we operate in because the numbers here that we are working with, that is very important for you to understand so that the entire talk makes sense. So, let's see. We are living in the age of AI, and at Wayfair, the code velocity has absolutely exploded massively. According to the DORA State of DevOps, this is from the 2025 report. Every 3 out of 4 developers is now using AI. I mean, everybody's using AI tools every single day, which makes sense also. And this is not a future prediction per se. This is now, like, this is us, the engineers right now using probably Claude, GitHub, Copilot, Cursor, whatever is our preferred platform, writing code faster than ever, right? And on paper, it sounds really amazing because we have more features, we have faster prototyping, we're writing fewer bad code, like the boring and bad code has gone down, and the speed is absolutely up, right? But here's the paradox, and I keep bringing this up. I've been saying this for a while now. And it's very much validated by the data that we have in the world as well right now, which is that the speed is up, but the reliability is down. AI generated code carries a very high vulnerability rate. And the quality assurance teams, they simply cannot keep up with the speed and the volume, which is expected, right? And so the incidents are rising. And you really can't hire your way out of this problem, right? You can't slow down these AI tools. The velocity is happening whether you govern it or not. So what do you do? What how do you solve this? Um, Let me show you what this paradox looks like at Wayfair's scale specifically. Now, these are real numbers from our Unleash Enterprise instance. We are, by the way, we are on Unleash version 6.10.0. We recently did an upgrade. I think we did it a few months back, like 6, 7 months back. And we've been very happy with the upgrade. On a scale, if you see, we have about 13.2K active feature flags. We have about 1,000 plus engineers on the platform itself actively contributing to all of these features. And then we have about 600 plus projects. And if you see, the number that actually blows our mind is that we have about 4.5 billion requests to Unleash every month. And on an average, during peak hours, our peak is approximately about like 6 billions. And at peak load, that's like 20,000 requests per second. And Unleash Edge handles that at under 5 milliseconds of latency. The Unleash Edge is the proxy layer that we have standing right below the Unleash main server. And that's distributed across compute clusters. And that sits right next to the main compute. And here you can actually see the request volume that we've had over the last 12 months, and you can see the growth curve. We've been consistently running at around 5 billion after a certain peak. And then every single one of those is flag evaluation happening in real time under 5 milliseconds, caching at the edge level. And so during Black Friday traffic spikes, by the way, our feature toggle system does not even blink. Failures never turn into incidents or outages for us because of how the system has been set up. Great. So that was a little bit about the scale that we operate in, which will now set the context of how important it is for us to manage these feature flags because the scale is so big. I will take everybody through a small quick trip back to something that I discussed last year as well, which was the architecture that we have. But very quickly, a quick recap. Before Unleash, Wayfair had an in-house feature toggle system, and it had all the classic problems that any in-house feature toggle system would face. We had unregulated access. Any team could create and delete toggles without any auditing. We had flags moving on everywhere, nobody cleaning them up. We had visibility problems. We had maintenance overload. Maybe check the last year's talk and you can get a more in-depth insight on the entire architecture. And that's when we moved from our in-house tool to Unleash Enterprise. And then out of the box, it gave us performance, scalability, and control. And then Unleash introduced Unleash Edge, which we distributed across our compute clusters. So that helped a lot, like super a lot, with the latency that we were getting with the feature flags. It helped with that a lot, and the systems became faster than ever. So then I think by the end of 2024, we had the feature ops set as a discipline or as a methodology at Wayfair. And so engineers were now shipping without fear and flags were working first class. And then AI happened. So that was 2024. And then somewhere around 2025, I think we ran into this issue. And I really want to put it very starkly because I think a lot of teams right now in the world are facing the exact same situation, maybe, and they haven't quite named it yet. So let's compare the two worlds, right? In the old world, where a human engineer writes a PR, the engineer makes a judgment call whether or not this PR is risky, whether or not this feature is risky and requires a flag. Now, that takes some mental bandwidth and some calculation and understanding. So that's great. Sometimes a feature is not that risky and maybe a feature flag is not required, but sometimes a feature flag is required. So the engineer takes a call and then follows a naming convention, follows the standard coding practices around the feature flag, right? And there's some intent like this, there's an intention there behind the feature flag, and a proper mental bandwidth has gone in to that. And probably a lot of sprints work also gone into that. But now, with AI coding tools in picture, The AI writes 200 lines of code that is going into production within 30 seconds. And the problem there is that just the coding agent does not really know your team's working architecture or the culture that your team is following. So it does not know the naming conventions that you're supposed to follow. It does not check whether a similar flag already exists in your system or not. It cannot risk score the feature flag, right? Because it has no context and it has no idea on how to risk it, because your AI coding assistant does not know what's the blast radius of the feature as it's going to hit 22 million customers for us, right? And that too for us, with 13K, 13.2K plus flags, the chaos compounds really, really, really fast, right? And so we had feature ops set up as a discipline, right, which we had worked really hard to build upon. But then AI entered the picture and was quietly bypassing it. Not even maliciously, but it was, and not even carelessly, I would say. It just did not know the rules, right, that were needed. And so we needed to bring AI inside our system. And that is where we found out. I mean, we thought that we really definitely 100% need an MCP to take care of this. And that's where our MCP story starts. Okay, so this is the part that I really enjoy. I think somewhere in early 2025, we started seeing this exact problem that I just described, where AI generated PRs were landing without flags, naming conventions, and coding conventions going here and there because of a lot of AI slop. So we looked for an MCP server for Unleash that did not exist at the time. So I think we were one of the fewer first customers to reach out to Unleash with a feature ask of an MCP from them, and they heard us, right? But while we were waiting for them to build the MCP, we did not know when it would come out, and we were super desperate. So we started building one in house. I don't know what it is with us and building in house tools, and then MCP, and then Unleash releases one for us. But yeah, so we had no idea when the MCP is going to come out officially. So we started building one in house, and we partly got through it. But by that time, Unleash had already shipped the official one. So we happily retired our in house MCP, right? And then everybody at Wayfair sort of really caught up. Now, let's get into what the MCP actually does, and let me walk you through it clearly. Um, Essentially, the fundamental idea is that instead of an AI assistant making raw API calls directly to Unleash, we just which is like just code with no judgment. The MCP sort of wraps the logic and the validation and the best practices into a protocol that AI can actually understand. And now your AI can reason about when and how to go about creating a flag or executing it, or changing the variants, changing strategies, etc. Right. So I think the four core tools that the MCP offers that we heavily rely upon are these. So they have evaluate change, the detect flag, create flag, and wrap change. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I can still touch upon them like a little bit. The evaluate change flag is really nice because it sort of takes the diff of the code change, right? And it scores the code change. It tells the risk aspect of it and it gives it a risk scoring depending on which the developer can also decide whether or not to create a feature flag out of this feature. And MCP also suggests whether this is a critical one or if it's a critical change and it should go out as a feature flag or not. So this is definitely helping out the developers in terms of the mental bandwidth that's going in, right? And so the developer can finally take a good judgment call on this. The detect flag one, I think this is something that we're heavily grateful for, because before creating anything, it checks Unleash for a similar flag and if it already exists. And this alone actually has been huge for us because we have around 13,000 flags. And so duplication of flags was a real problem, which is now solved. And then create flag is just simple. It's just going to create flags for the developers. Wrap change is essentially it's like a guard code where it has the specific framework, it has React components, it has Go handlers, whatever your code base uses, the AI sort of implements it correctly, so it helps. And so by the time now the PR lands for a review, the flag is already there, the risk assessment is already done, and we are not missing out on any risky changes, which is amazing, which is great. Um, to tie it all down, I want to give you all a complete workflow, like a real workflow of how the day to day is looking now at Wayfair. So, an engineer at Wayfair comes up and opens their IDE now, right? And maybe let's take an example. You're trying to refactor a payment service, like probably putting out a new integration. It's an important change, and it's probably gonna touch a lot of customers. Okay, let's just imagine that. Now, without the MCP, the code lands in a PR. The decision about whether or not you make it a flag or not is still pending. And maybe the engineer sort of thinks and notices that this is a critical one and adds a flag, but maybe they're busy, and maybe it's a very high velocity team with a lot of AI PRs flowing in constantly, right? And so maybe the flag never lands, the feature flag never lands, and so a critical code is just shipped out. But now with MCP in place, and also in the non-MCP case, there could be a case where a developer thinks that this is a critical flag and a critical feature, and they create a flag out of it, but it's essentially a duplicate that exists in that 13,000 set of feature flags that already exist in the system, but it's just super hard to kind of understand whether or not it's a duplicate. But now with MCP in picture, before the AI even finalizes the PR, it calls the evaluate change tool, right? And it checks the diff, it risk assesses the PR. It risk assesses the feature. So now we know if it's a risky change or not. And then it detects whether or not this is a duplicate flag, whether something like this already exists, which is amazing. That helps a lot, and we definitely needed that. And then it creates the flag, it does the code changes depending upon the wrap that's needed, right? And the PR that arrives to the developer, that's already flagged now, and the engineer did not really have to think about it a lot. And now they can properly sit and spend their time reviewing the PR and reviewing the change, and really thinking about the critical problems that could come up, and thinking about the actual issues that could come up, right? So now the reviewer engineer is just going to review the code. It's going to see that the flag is there. It's going to approve, and the engineer is going to merge it. And it goes to unleash UI. And then imagine that the developer is going to enable it for 1% of the traffic, and then watches the error rate and how the flag performs under the conversion, and then progressively rolls it out to 5%, 25%, 100%, right? And if something goes wrong at any point, you just have the kill switch. You can instantly roll back, right? There are no redeploys, there are no hot fixes, no incidents at 2 a.m., right? And beyond this is also something that I want to flag, no pun intended. But our engineers are now slowly but steadily shifting into using the IDE for strategy management and setting the variants too. The Unleash UI, I would say, is still the home base right now, but the IDE is creeping in slowly, and the muscle memory is slowly building up. Okay, now an honest take, because I think the most valuable thing that I can give you from today's talk is an unfiltered version of the things that are really working out for us, and the things that are really that we're experimenting with a lot. Now, to what has genuinely worked for us. The flags are 100% easier to manage at the developer scale now, because the MCP really handles with the feature management at developer scale now, not even at the SRE scale. So that helps a lot. The MCP helps with the general structure of the feature as well. It honors the existing methodology of the team, the configuration that the project already has. So engineers are not really starting everything from the scratch every time, right? We also have zero duplicate flags now from the AI tools. The detect flag tool catches them before creation, and at the scale of flags that we have, this alone has been worth the entire integration. The developer adoption has almost been very instant, because MCP 100% plugs into all of the tools that we're using on our day-to-day life. So there's no new workflow to be set, right? And Wayfair right now is very heavy on adopting AI right now. So it's very primed in the culture at the moment. So now moving on to parts that we're still experimenting with. Um, One of them would be flag cleanup, which is a serious problem for us because the volume of the flags that we have at Wayfair, the flags are not really going to archive themselves. And the MCP is creating the flags brilliantly, and we are aware that it also has the functionality to remove them, but it's still something that we're experimenting with the setup of life cycle and everything. Secondly, the naming convention is still adrift. But even with the MCP's guidance, teams always find a creative way to diverge, which is, I think, more of a culture issue rather than an MCP issue. With like the right set of skills and all, this can still be managed. Third is just like a good call out for everybody who's thinking about integrating this into their system. So you would love to, I mean, I would advise you all to set up prod environment guardrails. They would need an explicit care. I would advise that you always have your change logs enabled for production environment protection. This would come in super handy for production changes. And then the last one, it's very real, it's very human. There's still some hesitation around changing critical items directly via IDE. So, like changing the rollout strategies, changing the variants via the IDE. There's still some hesitation that we're seeing. And I think that's because UI is very much in the blood right now, still, and very warm. Engineers trust what they can see with their own eyes and click. And I think so, we're still building the muscle memory for it. And it's probably going to take time. But yeah, these are the things that we've worked on and the things that we're still experimenting to manage flags at such scale with the MCP. Okay, so now you know what has worked for us and what hasn't worked for us and how we're handling things at such a huge scale. As I keep saying, AI makes engineers 10 times more productive. Feature ops sort of makes that 10 times more safer to ship. And so together, that's the only lever that actually moves the needle for the scale that Wayfair operates in, right? And I think the companies that embrace this era very mindfully, they won't just really build faster, but they'll also learn super fast too. Because when every release is an experiment that you can control, measure, and essentially roll back as well, you're not just shipping faster, but you're actually compounding the knowledge. And if you see, then every flag is a data point, every rollout is like a signal, and every kill switch that you're not pulling, every kill switch that you never have to pull, is basically a proof that your system is 100% working. Yeah, I think that's what FeatureOps gives you. Um, in the age of AI, it's not like a break. FeatureOps is not a break, but it's more like a compass in the age of AI. Yeah, I think that's what I would say. Yeah, I guess that was it. Thank you so much for lending your ears and your brains today. Yeah, I hope you go on and manage some feature flags now. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you so much.
That was beautiful, Kirti. I love your energy and endless like optimism and enthusiasm. Like Feature Ops is a compass. I want to have that T-shirt now. Yeah. Also, I love when you said that AI is at the end. You said that AI is helping us learn faster, which is so true. And it's good to focus on like the positive things. Another thing that I noticed is every time you come back to us for FeatureOps Summit, you've acquired a new, obscure, very fun-sounding hobby. Like last year it was surfing, and then this year it's free diving. So I love that. I think we all just want to be you. Is it like, do you feel like some of the stuff you've learned with like the mindfulness and like staying calm under pressure actually helps you in your job and staying calm at like during a 2 a.m. incident?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think free diving teaches you that panic is often more dangerous than the problem itself. So at 2 a.m., your instinct is to react immediately and then to start changing things immediately. But just like when you're underwater, the first step is sort of to slow down, to assess the environment, and then conserve your options. And so feature ops really helps here because if you have progressive rollouts, if you have kill switches in place, you're not really forced into an all or nothing situation, right? You can reduce the blast radius instead of escalating the situation. And I think calm systems create calm engineers, and also vice versa. So calm engineers create calm systems.
So
And
true.
yeah, and improvise as well. I think if we see an incident, it's very tempting to act on a few symptoms than really targeting the real root cause. So yeah, I suppose it really helps to stay calm and respond and to solutionize or solution the incident out instead of like reacting and putting a band-aid on it.
Next time I'm in a stressful situation, I was just like, what would Kirti do? Cool. Yeah, I was wondering like what's really changed for you in the last year in terms of your FeatureOps story.
Oh yeah. So I think last year we were more focused about the scaling and the scale of the work that we were doing and scaling feature delivery and delivering things safely. But I think this year AI has fundamentally changed the equation like completely. And I think teams are producing code much, much faster.
Hmm.
But I think software delivery was never really the bottleneck anyway. Coordination was. And so now the focus has shifted from how do we ship more code to how do we safely govern an increasing number of changes. I think that's the real problem now. And so FeatureOps here is becoming an operational layer between AI generated code and productions. That's an important layer that we're now focusing on.
Speaking of AI tooling, how does your team decide if you have a specific thing that you want to use AI for? If MCP is the best way, or if you just should use like a skill or a CI tool or something?
Yeah, I think that's a great one and like a common question. I think I personally decide based on the level of abstraction. So I would use I would use CLI tool for like a simple purpose or a single purpose deterministic action, and then probably use a skill for like a workflow or a repeatable workflow that I want to automate. And then MCP when I want AI to have access across the organizational context. So if I
Hmm.
want the AI to have system knowledge, knowledge about the architecture and the multiple domains that we have, then I think MCP would be the right option. So if I want AI to run like a deterministic action, I would expose it. I mean, I would probably use CLI. And if I want it to follow our team's principles or the best practices and stuff, then I would package it all in a skill and use it as a skill. And then if I want my AI agent to reason across the system, to reason across all the documentations that we have and think with context and to have contextual awareness, then MCP would be the right option to go.
That's a nice way to put it. By the way, in one of the other tracks today, we had a live demo of the MCP as well. So if anyone here wants to see our engineering team do a demo, you can go back and watch that session. I think it was one of the first ones today. Yeah, I do have like two more questions, and I'll let you go. One is like, is there anything that has surprised you as you've increased and adopted AI at this scale?
Um, Not really. I think it wasn't how much faster the code is being written now. I don't think that's surprising, but I think what's surprising is how quickly the number of changes are exploding. So AI is
Hmm.
definitely reducing and compressing the development time 100% dramatically, but I don't think it's compressing the validation and the observability and the risk management aspect of it. So in fact, these things are becoming even more important now with AI in picture. So I think the limiting factor is no longer the engineering capacity, which it was previously, because now AI is capable of doing a lot of work, engineering work. But it's more an organizational trust or even like managing the infrastructure at the scale. And with the scale that we're operating in, it becomes even more interesting and even more fun and sometimes even tricky.
Yeah, the hard problems are still hard problems, like knowing what to build and building the right thing at the right time is still
Ex-
the main
Exactly.
challenge.
Mm.
So for any teams who are on this call and they want to go at your speed, or maybe already are going at your speed, but don't really have some of these foundations in place that you talked about, like what do you think is a good place to start?
I wouldn't start with tools. I don't think I would start with tools. If somebody's just starting off, I would say I would suggest to start with like fundamentals. So what do progressive rollouts mean to you? Ownership and governance. What is the definition of these two terms for you, for your system, for your infrastructure? What is the scale of traffic that you're expecting? And then ideally you would want to think about it in present while you are doing it, and also think about future and plan for future when it comes to scale, because it's definitely going to explode. And then observability also, I think, is one of the aspects that one should be thinking about, because having a great observability is like having a good best friend, like great set of eyes. So yeah, I don't think that for starters, I don't think that you would need a sophisticated platform like from day one. Even for us, I don't think we started off with the platform directly. We created our own in-house tool, and then eventually that helped us to understand what we needed, the scale that we're operating in, what are our requirements and everything. And that is when we reached out to you guys and we moved to Unleash as the best option. So yeah, I would say build your own system, understand your definitions, understand the scale, understand the infrastructure, and answer the basics for your system, and then build the maturity over time.
But before anyone builds their own feature flag system, they should watch your talk from last year.
Yeah, probably.
Cool. Yeah, I think we can wrap up for this session today. And thank you so much for joining us. And I hope we will have you back next year as well.
100%. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have fun.